Hello from the Mind Talk, and welcome back to our new episode on our podcast with our new guests. And we are going to talk everything personal development, self development, psychology, and so much more because empowered women empower families. Hi, Sharon. Welcome to the podcast, The Mind Talk, where we are going to have some conversations which are direct, straightforward, and say things as they are.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little about yourself?
I'm an accountant for over 30, 40 years. Now I've spent the last 30 years here in Hong Kong, working mainly in budgeting and currently work as a fractional CFO. But I also work with individuals on their personal finances and, especially with women through divorce process, where I've actually found that they a lot of financial understanding and support is missing. So it's an important thing that I'm learning that us as women need to have good financial background and some training and learning how to understand their finances.
I hear you. I absolutely hear you there because even me as growing up, I was never really trained to talk about finances. And even within the community or the Indian culture that I grew up with, or my community, almost talking about money and wealth is a taboo. And do you find that in Hong Kong, is it like
That's
cross cultural? What is it?
that's across every culture, everywhere that I see. Okay, so there's no culture, there's no person, but I tend to find it's a lot more in women.
Mhm.
And also the other thing, just bringing that up too, is that it's not taught in schools. Even right at the basics, we're taught our maths. We're often taught about how to work out the value, the valuation on an asset, how much interest we're earning on our accounts and things like that. But we're not actually ever taught how to budget for money and understand where our money is going. And to me, it's actually a very simple concept that I try to convey, where it's money coming in and money going out.
Mm.
But going back to the original question, because I tend to go off track a little bit, but it is also, um, you know, with women, especially when we get married too, we tend to split duties. And, finances can often go to the male partner in the relationship, which can make total sense because why have two people doing the same thing? However, it's also important for us to understand, even if we're not doing it on a daily basis, but to understand where our money in our household or wherever is being spent and where we're allocating it to, instead of just leaving it to one person to manage.
So you said something money in, money out, and we'll come back to that later. But I still want to stay on the
Yes.
uh, aspect of how the responsibility for money is shared, where you said that the duties are split. But what I've also seen is women can be doing corporate jobs and they can be starting businesses, but somehow the finances still remain with the husband. So can you tell me a little more about that? Have you
What
experienced that?
what I've found in my experience with this is that often, and I'm come from a finance background,
Hmm.
so in my household it tends to be a little bit of a role reversal. So my husband hands it all off to me, and I've got to drag him in, saying half the time, saying you've got to understand where it's going as well. But the thing is I think a lot of it is traditional stereotypes too. So, on a traditional scheme, the husband looks after the finances, the household, and the money,
Hmm.
whereas the women tend to look after the children and, the day-to-day responsibilities of the household. And I think we often fall into those stereotypes, even when we are working, and I've worked all my life and I still do the children and the household and that as well. So it's falling into those traditional stereotypes that we have to break and, understand it as well.
Yeah, and it finally comes down to that marriage is a partnership.
Yes.
And, you know, yes, it's good to split roles and all of that. But finally, when we take the understanding or the responsibility of the finances and money away from women, what we are basically taking away is power.
Yes. It's power. It's power in being able to have your own sort of destiny or understand where you're going. Um, it's and often, it is fine while the partnership is good, but when that partnership falls down, and it can be like a business where you have two partners falling out,
Mhm.
or it's a divorce where you have two partners that know have one has decided, say, not to actually continue with the relationship. It doesn't always have to be both of them. But if, it's where that crunch matter comes to, and all of a sudden you have to reassess where you're at or what you need to be doing going forward. You also, on the flip side as well, you can have you can still be married, but what happens if one of you loses a job and all of a sudden you are living on one income and you have to readjust? So it's being prepared for that. And if you have an understanding of where your money is going to start off with, then those readjustments are often easier to implement and quicker to implement than if you're all of a sudden gone, I don't even understand where our money is going. Where can we make adjustments? I really need this, but why, can we drop something else?
Mm,
So you're almost having a double whammy where you've lost your income, but you're also trying to learn
yeah,
and understand as well, and often a very short space of time.
right. And that could, I well imagine, have major impact on one's confidence, self-esteem, right?
Yes.
And how have you seen money, understanding of money, interact with a woman's self-esteem and confidence levels?
It can be over a period of time that it's can some people have had it can be so afraid to even open up a bank account or walking into a bank to open up a bank account because they haven't done it in so long that it's just like a simple thing like that seems to be a really large
Mm,
issue or hurdle to overcome. So it's the confidence in, it's a confidence in actually being able to do that, but it's the confidence in actually making the decisions, of where I want to go in the future. It's, women, it's, it's like, okay, they want to do what's best for the everyone. Okay. And they tend to put each other last. Now we're trying to say, okay, you can still do that, but let's put yourself a little bit higher on that too, and making sure that you're looked after.
mm,
So I've had, in divorce situations, and that is often where it comes out really clearly. I've had women that have gone to, say, their 50s, and, it comes to a divorce and they find out that there is no money there for retirement. So they're going through the divorce, but they've realized that, they're 55 and they've got to go back out and work or start working when they've been raising the family, and think that there's money being put aside, and there's not. And you know it's very emotional, it's very stressful, and also from a different side of it, your earning capacity is not as high as what it was when, say, if you're younger and you've been working, or you're someone that has been working throughout your lifetime as well. So you're dealing with a whole lot of emotional stresses. And, I think it's around about 50% of divorce of marriages often do end in divorce. So being prepared and understanding what's there, it's good in either good times, or if you don't get divorced or not, and preparing for that as well.
and this is not to spread the fear that, there might be a divorce or whatever, but it's mostly to bring that agency. And I think the one thing that grown-ups have to do, which is very different from the children, a lot of other things, but this is working with money, being comfortable with money. And I
Yes.
see a lot of women having a fear with money. So even like, don't wait till you have to face divorce, or I mean, I hope nobody has to, but
Divorce, or it can be a loss of a partner as well.
exactly.
So, if we lose our partner through whatever reason, That's the same as a divorce in a way from a financial perspective. And all of a sudden, you've got to take control of finances that you've never looked at. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So someone who's married, right? And to bring that level playing field, what is something that they should start doing today? You spoke about money in and money out, and I'm understanding that's the first step
yeah.
of
Well,
a lot of
one of
things.
our biggest, is that or one of the often comments I get is I'm not good with numbers. How many times
I'm a
have
cult.
you heard that?
I'm guilty of that.
Yes. Yeah, I hear that all the time. And, it's like, I'm not good with numbers. That's my excuse for not looking at this. Or, maths was never my strong point at school. So this is where I try to make it as simple as possible. And, it, my, one of the terms I've now come up with is that we're looking at whatever money comes in, whether it's your salary, whether it's rental, whether it can be a government subsidy, it can be, it's something like that. So it's the money coming in, and you can have a little book and you can write it in, saying this is, you know, I've got a 10,000 come in this month, okay, and then in that same book you have a list of what is going out. So whether it's food, and you put down all your food for that, and then you had come up with a balance at the bottom,
Mm,
to say that's how much money is left over in the month. Okay, or I haven't got enough. Okay, and then you can look up quickly the list to sort of see, okay, where have I spent it, and have a clear understanding. Because in a lot of cases in our head, we are often undervaluing probably about 10 to 15% of
whoa.
what we actually spend. So, we always forget the little bits. It might be the topping up of the octopus card, or the Metro card. It might be, okay, I bought that drink, at 7-Eleven with cash. Um, it's little things like that that can add up. But it can be as simple as doing that each month,
Mm,
and you can have a little book that you just put it all in, to be able to start looking at those things. And that is not difficult to me for anyone to do. Um, and that's why I use it's money coming in and money going out, and then seeing that from a perspective. Now, there are a lot of tools out there now that if you want to invest a little bit
mhm,
in them, that can help you. I actually use a because I have expenses in two countries because my kids are in Australia, and we
mhm.
do have we have an investment property down there, so it does actually. So I use something called like Zero, which is the cost of like a dinner for two every month. About 350 Hong Kong dollars,
Mhm.
and I use that to do that, because what it does is it pulls from my bank accounts all the information, and then I've just got to sit there and allocate it. Okay, and then I can see it clearly each month on that, to help me keep track of where it's going. But you see, if you use your bank statement, you can't hide anything,
Mm,
because your money goes into your bank statement and your money goes out of your bank statement. So often, if you use that as a base, also, when you tap and go, or tap your credit card or your bank card to go and actually buy something, it's all there on your bank statement, as well.
So this
So,
also requires a little bit of discipline and building of a habit. And that takes me to my childhood. So my dad used to give my mom like a monthly allowance to
yes,
run the house. And by the end of the month, if we've, finished all the cookies in the house or snacks, whatever, she would say, okay, no more cookies. Now you start having whatever is in the house. And we finish all the groceries in the house so that when I go to buy the next month, I know how much to buy. So there was a lot of rationing, not that
yeah,
we needed to, but that's just how she was brought up. And then I was brought up. But then when I moved to Hong Kong, it changed. And now I'm here spending money on my credit card, doing weekly grocery shopping.
yep.
And I'm not keeping track, honestly.
Yeah, and that's where, if because you can often download the activity on your credit card statement for the last 90 days. So it actually goes down to an Excel worksheet or a file. So you can download the data. So if you download and cut and paste that, you've got that in, say, an Excel sheet or a number sheet or, a free thing. And then you can actually see where it's gone out. That's, one of the simple ways. And it's one of the tools that I'm going to be putting on my website in the next couple of months that people can access if they want to, because I've created a simple sheet. But the differences are, and my mother was a bit the same as well. Okay. But with technology and the tap and goes, that's only come in, say, in the last, probably 10 years.
Yeah.
So, it's made it really, really convenient, but we've lost that aspect of being able to keep track in our head by, getting that cash amount out and rationing it out. I remember when I first came up here, I used to have like a couple of little envelopes,
Mm.
with the amounts that I would need, from a cash point of view to pay for certain bills or certain, and my spending money for the month. My husband still does it where he takes out his spending money, and then tells all his mates I'm giving him an allowance. So it's just like you said, but you're keeping me under control so that I don't go out and I do all the tapping and that sort of thing. Never stopped him from buying anything, through tap
Yeah.
and go, but he likes to, say he gets that allowance every month, from it as well that he uses. Um, but it's important to be aware of that how easy it is, but it means we lose track of it as well because the other side of things too is mentally, and they've proven this, is that mentally, if you hand over a cash, so hand over $100,
Mm.
you actually sit there and you think in it before you actually hand that over.
Right.
Okay. There is a mental pain with physically handing over cash than handing over tapping your credit card
And I've
and
experienced
spending
that. Like
one hundred.
when I go out shopping and if I'm spending cash, then I would ask myself, do I really need this? And then I'd
Yeah.
probably not get it. And I think that's because also money is such an abstract concept. It's
Yeah.
difficult to visualize what we are doing with it. So having that physical thing in our hand and saying, oh, I spent $30 out of 100, I have only 70 left. Now let me
Yeah.
start thinking if I really need this. So
Yeah.
I think
If I spend $50 on a taxi,
mm,
and I've got $50 left and I hand over cash, could I actually walk or take the MTR, rather than, taking that $50 cash? Whereas, if you put it on Uber, you don't even see the cash going out.
oh, I never thought
You
about
book the
that.
Uber. Yeah, you
Mm.
book the Uber and it's just like, yep, the cash goes out on my credit card and yes, and $110 later to, Hong Kong to go to work each day is like, yep, okay, all right. Whereas if I did this took the train to Wong Chuk Hang, it's like, yeah, less probably $10. um, but that's it's the concept in your head as well. You don't think twice of it when you're doing things like, booking an Uber or something like that. But
Mm.
actually, when you sit there and you think about how much you actually spend on it, it's like you sit there and go, oh, mm, that's my shopping for a week, or something like that. It can be.
And is that what you do when you train others on how to do budgeting or manage money? Do you advocate for having the physical cash till they get used to?
Um, Sometimes it's more from my point of view, I advocate being aware.
Mm.
So being aware of where you're spending your money from, having a look, and the first starting point is having a look at where you're spending your money every month. And if you start downloading the activity from your statements and from your credit card statements,
Mm.
because you can download them easily. I often, as I said, the spreadsheet where you cut and paste it and you can allocate it, okay, and you can see then where your monthly ins and outs are going. You can't hide anything. So, and that then starts to be a very upfront, and making you aware
Mm.
of where you're spending all your money. So not just a portion of it, but all your money. And often, if you've got rising credit card debt,
Mm.
That's where you've got to look, because you've got to look at where you can cut your credit card spending or your spending, and then where can you save money to actually start paying that off, as well.
So,
So
so today actually we are recording it on a Saturday, and say tomorrow is Sunday, and I uh, download my monthly expenses or say weekly expenses, right? Or actually, it's the 29th of November today. So it's almost the end
you
of,
could do the month.
yeah,
Yes.
I could do the month, right? So I've gone through all my expenses. I know where I'm spending, where I'm not spending, whatever, how the money is going in and out, right? Now, if I want to build a habit of awareness, self regulation for the rest of December so that 2026 I'm an empowered woman with money. Can you tell me what do I need to do? Like go one, two, three, four, five. How would my day, week, month look like? How do I do grocery shopping, eating out with friends, socializing, shopping for clothes, jewelry, whatever? Can you give me an idea of that?
Yeah. So what I would do is I'd actually probably, the very first time, I'd probably do 3 months.
Okay.
So do your last 3 months, because that gives you an average. You can have a look across all 3 months to say, okay, I've spent on food an average of 10 or 15,000 Hong Kong for the month.
Mm,
Okay. For shopping, I'm spending 5,000 Hong Kong a month. And what we do is, if we do an average and of those 3 months, it will give us what our average spend. What we then do is we can then set a number against that I would classify as a budget.
mm,
Okay, so this is how much I'm intending to spend for the month on these. Because especially when you're getting into December, you have the Christmas parties, you
mm.
have the Christmas gifts, you'll start probably shopping for Christmas presents. So, it's putting us then aside money for that. And if you're using all your money every month on, say, from September to November, okay, you're not going to have any spare to then pay for those one-offs that are
Yeah.
going to happen, especially in December.
Mm,
So, it's starting to understand where you're spending your money, but also then setting targets or numbers on what you're going to spend
mm,
this month, and then keep track of it. Each, and you could do it each week, or just, write in a book beside it, how much you're spending with that, as well. And you can download the activity on a weekly basis if you want to check in on the weekly on December to see just how you're going. Um, but it's, December's often a blowout month. Um, and, it's about, just keeping track of those things.
So basically, download all your financial activity for the past 3 months, so you have an idea of where you've spent your money,
Yes.
and then a weekly budgeting system. Is that what you
You
said?
could do a weekly budgeting, or you could do a monthly budgeting, whatever you want to do. Often, if you've got it there monthly, you can do a monthly budget,
Hmm.
and then you could just divide it by four to say,
Okay.
okay, that's how much I'm looking at each week.
Okay.
Um, but it's okay to go over it, okay, at this present time. Okay, you're learning. Okay,
Yes.
so don't set yourself unrealistic targets and then beat yourself up because you're not matching it. This is to me, it's a learning experience. Okay,
Mm,
so it's learning, okay, why wasn't this enough? Okay, it might be, okay, I'm not ratcheted back on my subscriptions, because, like, one thing you might find is you've got all these subscriptions that you may be automatically renewing that you don't really use. So they sometimes can take a little while to unwind and give you that extra money to then be able to use elsewhere, and things like that. So it's it's be gentle with yourself as well. It's not I'm not setting yourself up for failure, on this one, as it's a learning curve, and you're not alone when you're doing this, when this is happening. So, it's um, there's a lot of people out there that, are putting their heads in the sand still a little bit,
mm.
because they're afraid to see what they are actually is happening. We're trying just to avoid it getting to the stage where you get forced into doing it because your credit cards are maxed out, You
Mm.
can't get a loan. And then it comes to a crunch matter of saying, okay, I then now need to look at it. We're trying to avoid getting to that stage.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also that you mentioned in the beginning that as women, we are just not comfortable with the language of money and becoming comfortable with all these terms, budgeting, insurance. I don't know what my insurance our insurance systems are. Oh my god, I'm unraveling here. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of women don't know that, where the investments are made. And you said we need to teach girls at a very young age and at schools. What does that look like for you? How would you?
To me, that's starting to go into it should be in maths or life skills in schools. We teach about addition, we teach about subtraction, we teach about trig, calculus. To me, it's a simple life skill that should be, taught and brought into it that this is normal, that you should be doing this regularly on
Mm,
this life skill. It's like a life skill almost, from my point of view.
right.
And everyone says to me, we don't, my kids don't know how to budget. Whether it's with pocket money, giving your child $100 pocket money, and then saying, okay, that lasts you for a week, okay, and if you've got it at the end, well, you're going to be walking, or there will be no more 7-Eleven sumai that you can buy, or things like that. We tend to, and I'm guilty of this as well. My kids, aren't the best budgeters, but it's about giving them the understanding of, it's limited. There's limited money, and you've got to work within that foundation. In Hong Kong, we can easily top up, their octopus, online. You get a phone call from your kids saying, "I need money in my account. Can you top it up for me? I can't get home," or I'm at the supermarket because I've got young adult children. I'm at the
Mhm.
supermarket. I need to go and buy food. Can you top up my account for me? And it's while they're in the supermarket, it's a bit hard to say, "Well, where has your money gone for the last week?"
Yeah.
Um, and we work on. I work, as I said, my kids are in Australia. I am in Hong Kong, so we work on long distance, and it's often the text messages that I get on that one. So say I'm guilty a little bit of it with my kids too. It's just I automatically say, okay, the easiest thing to do is just put some money on your into your account, so you can go and do your supermarket shopping and that, or but then I forget to follow up with them on, well, where has your money gone? It's like, oh yeah, I went to the Pop Mart store or Time Zone last week. So it's just like,
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because I have my daughter who's studying abroad, and she'll want to go and get her nails done or buy something, and she'll be like, "Mom, I went in to buy something and your voice was there. Do you really need it?" And then I walked out. How lame is that? And all my friends bought it. I said, "You know what? You're going to really thank me when you're in your
yes.
40s or your 50s and your bank balance looks good, your savings looks good. So do call me up then and thank me."
And it's also the art of shopping around as well. So, you were saying about your nails, or your daughter's nails. So you can go and get them done, say, in the city, and they can cost double of what you might be able to do it in the suburbs.
Mm.
I found that out. There's places in Hong Kong in Central that, to get your nails done, and if I go a little bit further down the road where someone showed me in Shenzhen, it's like half the price
Wow.
of it. So just having that, asking around, looking for it, and I think the one in Shenzhen is actually a better finish from that point of view. So I will do it more regularly there,
Mm,
and it's not that far out of the way as well. It's like filling up your car when petrol prices go up and down.
mm,
Try to look at when petrol prices are down. They go in cycles in Australia, and I'm not sure here because I don't have a car.
mm,
But fill the car up when the petrol prices are in that down cycle, not the up cycle. If you've got to fill it up with the up cycle, just put in $20 or a certain amount that will get you through until possibly another down cycle on that. You don't have to fill it up every single time. And that can save you money as well, especially when in Australia where it costs me $100 Aussie to fill up the tank. You
Yeah.
know, if it's 2.20 or $1.80 and it can be that much per litre, you know, it can make a big difference.
Yeah, and so basically you're saying just be smart about your spending. You don't have to give up the life that you like, but just
Yeah.
be a little smart about where your money is going, how you're going, and find ways to, like work around the things that you really want. And
Yes.
with this, I'm going to come back to training girls in their young age. You mentioned that this training has to be given in school. But with boys, like the training is not given in school, but somehow boys grow up with that vocabulary of money.
Yes.
So there's something missing in the society, right? As a society, we are not doing something right. So what
And
do
I think it's the culture of talking about money. So in girls and with their mothers, and that we don't necessarily talk about it. So the girls may go shopping with their mother, and it's not necessarily brought up, all that. Whereas I think sometimes with boys, they tend to be made more aware of it through their fathers or through, their just the way they go out and they talk about it. So when men talk about it, they will talk about money, or talk about what their jobs are, what they're doing, how much they're earning. With women, it becomes a lot more of a, as you say earlier on, a taboo subject.
Mm.
Of how well we're going, how well what we're doing, where we're going, and if we start freeing up those conversations, I think a little bit, and opening them up and say, yes, it's okay, yes, we can be, and it can also be successful. Women aren't brought up necessarily to, strive for success in having money as well. So it can sometimes go against your own norms to,
Mm.
succeed and have money and have your own money and that as well. Not sure if I'm making 100% sense here, but it's about, celebrating that success, and talking to our daughters and being able to talk to other women about it as well, that it's okay to do that. But we've also got to accept too that some women feel ashamed or that they don't know about it and won't bring that up.
Mm.
So it's sort of talking about it, but saying it's okay if you don't know about it as well. And we just want to be open and say, yes, let's help you get to that stage, and help you understand it. And it's okay not to know. I think that's one of my biggest messages. It's okay that you don't know, that you don't, and it's not a embarrassment. It shouldn't be embarrassing. It shouldn't be a shame. It shouldn't be any of that. It's just like you've got strengths in other areas. So let's make this more of a strength.
So, I think about a year or so ago, I worked actually with a money coach from India, and it's basically to improve my relationship with money and how I view money. And in my own journey, I realized I felt shame talking about money. I felt shame asking for money. Uh, there was a lot of fear around money, especially with some of the life experiences I've had. And I still don't know where that shame came from. Maybe I know, maybe it was the, as you said, the cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
But how can women work on themselves
Yeah.
if they go with you to improve their relationship with money?
So a lot of these are psychological, that happen when you're younger. It can be with how you're younger, and a person in the same household could have different, who's had the same experiences, can have two very different reactions to money. So
Mm.
it's understanding that. So if, say, for example, you come from a poorer background and you've had your money's been tight. Okay, and you and your sister are in that household, just as an example. You may, as you've got older and you've got some money, okay, say, well, I missed out on all of this when I was a child because I was poor. I'm going to go out and spend it all. Okay, so I'm going to go out and buy this. Whereas your sister may say, I'm still scared to spend it because I don't want to be poor like I was back there, but I don't want to go back to that situation because I spend it. So they're almost like hoarding money or afraid of spending it. So you can have two different people in exactly the same situation have two very different reactions to money, but it goes often back to where you were younger or your experiences with money when you were younger. And it could be due to culture, it could be due to family, it could be due to just your situation at that time,
Mm.
or a one off experience where your father lost his job and he was unemployed for 6 months and it got really, really tight.
Mm.
And then when he got work, and that stayed with you. Okay, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my income. I've got to have money set aside. I can't spend it all. So it's understanding where they come from. And it's one of the reasons I did do a psychology diploma about finished it about 2, 3 years ago, because money and psychology are often intertwined. There's some very good books from Susie Orman, who's a money coach in the US,
Mm-hmm.
who identifies this. And that was one of the first times I actually heard of those connections on that. But it's about overcoming those initial conditioning or initial upbringings, and the thoughts behind them, whether reasonable or unreasonable. There's no judgment in this, but it's just making you aware of it. And then if you're aware of it, it will often help you then move forward
Mm.
on that and understanding.
Could you mention the name of the book once more? Susie Ormond, is it?
Susie Orman's the author. She's got a lot of books
Mm.
there. So Susie Orman used to be on CNN, and various ones like that. She is actually an investment advisor, but she used to be a person who used to appear years ago. And this is we're showing my age on the Oprah Winfrey
Ah,
show.
okay.
About your relationship with money.
Mm.
And I remember her CNN programs where people would ring up and tell her, okay, this is how much I've got. This is how much I've got. Can I afford the trip, the 3 month trip
Oh, I remember
overseas?
that. No, you
And
can't.
it's like, yes or no. It's like, I'm giving you permission to go. You've got enough there, and it's like having a fund, a 6 month emergency fund,
Mm. Mm.
to be able to, if something does happen, or you have a illness that you might have to go off work for a couple of months, you've got that emergency fund that you can call on to
Mm.
help through those periods, as well. I think there are a lot of people going through these things at the moment with loss of jobs and that due to the current economic environment,
Mm.
but there's a lot of people that are not prepared, to, weigh that, get that until they get a new job. So they
Right.
may lose their job and then it might take them 3 months to get a
Mm.
new job. But having an emergency fund during that time, and that was one thing she advocated to get through that time, will help you be able to look for that job without the pressure of saying, I need money. Where's the money coming from?
Right.
That sort of thing. What do I have to sell to get, to put keep my family,
Mm.
being able to live during that time?
Can you give me like top three, top five things for women to improve their relationship with money? And I know that, it's not just one, two, three, but I'm sure it's a big process. But how do they get started off and some of the things they
To
can
me,
do?
always the starting off is to have a look at what you're spending, what's coming in and what's going out. Okay, because that gives you a very clear, and it's there in black and white, on that. So whenever I deal with anyone, I want them to always understand what their current position is, on that one. And that's, it can be done on a couple of different ways. There's some very good apps as well, if you need to, but, understand what's coming in and what's going out. On that is always my number one thing to do. And then the second one is create your budget,
Mhm.
beside that. Um, and then that can help you plan for your future. You can then decide what you want to do in the future, and then be able to set your money aside or put your buckets in there going forward. Um, if you're having trouble with doing that, that's when you then go to, say, see a money coach or someone like myself that can help you understand why it is so difficult on that as well. But if everyone did this, I'd be out of a job, and I'd be perfectly happy to be out of a job. I read that one day, and I thought, yes, I would be perfectly happy to be out of a job if everyone did this, because it's something, with my work with divorcees and that over the years, it's something that I'm getting more and more passionate about on this as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, while you say budget everything and see what you can spend and not spend, to me, to the ears, it sounds restrictive, but to my heart, it sounds almost like freedom. So you're basically saying choose which heart you want. Do you want to be careful now and build that discipline so you can have all the freedom? Or do you want to, just put your head down like an ostrich and then,
Well,
yeah?
you see, the to me, it's about also the freedom, because it gives you the opportunities to be able to say, I want to do that trip in a year's time.
Hmm.
How can I I'm going to afford that. I can actually put the money aside for that trip, instead of having a putting it on credit card, and then when you get to a year later, your credit card is full, and you go on your trip and you've got no money to spend on your trip while you're away, because your credit card is full and you're paying 30% interest on that credit card as well. So it's about giving you the freedom to choose where you want to put your money, or where you want your money to go.
Hmm.
So it sounds restrictive. It's not meant to do that, because what it's meant to identify is where you're actually doing it at the moment, spending it
Hmm.
at the moment. But it also allows you the freedom to then move forward and say, I'm going to move forward in a positive way,
Hmm.
and this is what I want to work towards. Instead of saying, I want to own my own house or have a deposit in my own house, but if you keep just doing the current cycle, I never have any money left at the end of the month. So that house just keeps getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out.
Hmm.
Um, if we do it this way, you could do that house, and you still can actually allocate some money towards going out and partying on the weekend.
Yeah.
But you're doing it with an under clear conscience that I'm not spending too much. Because the other flip side of this is, when you do this, it comes to Monday and your conscience is going, should not have spent all that money on the weekend. So you then beat yourself up internally, saying, I spent, and you can spend a couple of thousand here going out in Hong Kong, on a weekend. It's like, I shouldn't. And how many times on a Monday you say, oh, I should not have spent all that money. That's a fifth of my salary that's gone out. Or I haven't put away my tax money, and it comes to January, and it's just like, how am I going to pay my tax? So it's taking away those negative talk as well that
Mm.
you get from overspending, and you've overspent.
So basically, having a goal and working towards that goal, no matter how uncomfortable it feels in the moment. And of course, when women are whoever actually starts working with money for the first time, you're gonna
Mm.
have your fears come up. You're gonna have shame come up. You're gonna have all those feelings come up. But to stay with it and just go with it because you have a goal. You have a goal to work on, and it's
Yep.
not a cycle you want to stay in.
Yeah.
And like recently, a very close, someone very close to me, experienced poverty recently, and they came from a very like a well-off family and everything. So one thing that I also have started believing today is world over, I think there is we put like money is taboo uh, when we talk about women working, and I want to hear what your thoughts are on this, but this is what I have started to believe now. We say there's nothing like, being a stay-at-home mom and looking after your kids and being a mom. But for me, I've started believing that women have to work. Your careers are important. Having that financial freedom and independence is important. Raising kids is not just the job of a mom, but it's a job of both the parents. And
Yes.
I've started to believe it. And in fact, I advocate this, I talk about it with anyone I meet. And I do get a little bit of pushback from stay at home moms saying that's not true. But it's wonderful what stay at home moms do. But money
Yes.
is real, our needs are real. So, what are
Right.
your thoughts about this?
My thoughts are, it's interesting because, I see both sides of it. I've had 3 kids and I've worked all through growing up with my kids. And, working full time, you have that money guilt as well. So you have that guilt. Okay, I'm not at home. I'm not with the kids. We had the luxury of being up here with a helper. So therefore, what my time with the kids on the weekend, I was able to give it fully on that. But as a working mum too, you have a lot of different hats where you're still expected to look after the house or maintain, and handle all of the operations of the house, the helper, the kids, the schools, all of that. Um, it's also, I think also we've got to look at it that, a mother is the same as a stay-at-home mum is almost like a full-time job sometimes,
Mm,
as well, and it should be recognized as that. Um, the it's what happens is we need to keep some skills or have some skills that if we do need to work, or we have money put aside for us if we're a stay-at-home mum, that there is a fund there that we're almost being paid. So you could say
mm,
we're being paid by our husband, okay, to look after the family. So it's a recognition that this is a job, that we have a retirement fund in our own name,
mm,
okay, so that we've got something that at the end of it, we've got something that's substantial to be able to retire if, for whatever reason, we're no longer in that same family environment.
right.
So I understand both sides of it. The choices we make on that. Um, and I don't think I could ever have been a stay-at-home mum. My mum wasn't a stay-at-home mum. My mum actually started working in the 50s. And when she had us, she stayed at home when we were little because they didn't have the help in Australia. But as soon as I was about the age of 3 and went into kindergarten, she went back to work full time, during school hours.
Mm,
So I was always used to a working mother, and I think that ended up applying to me. Is I just couldn't quite comprehend being a full-time stay-at-home mum. But I have a lot of friends that have been that. But I also know a lot of those friends have gone through divorces, and have then found that they've got to go back to work. And some of them were quite successful before they actually had their children, and then find it difficult going back into the workforce afterwards at that same because they've had such a large gap.
mm,
So it is good to, I think, too, to keep something going during that. And sometimes people start their own businesses and work on it that way because sometimes that can work better. So I'm an advocate for both, but I'm an advocate too that there is money put aside so that if, say, for retirement, and if you're still both together, fantastic. You've got 2 lots of savings that you've got
yep,
that can support you during retirement. Or there is money put aside so that if you need to retrain or do something that can help you and spend a couple of years with training after a divorce, that money is there too. So a lot of the people I know have gone back to uni,
okay.
and say, an example is, there were, when I did my psychology graduate diploma, there were a lot of women there on those courses that were going back. Okay, they were in their 50s, you know, the world is calling out for counselors and psychologists and that, and it can be quite well paid, but they have to do that training
Yeah.
and the thing first, which can take a couple of years to do. So, there's opportunities there to actually go back and still do it, but having that fund put aside while you're earning, while you are that stay-at-home mum, I think is important as well.
I like this idea. I like this idea where you said that if you're a stay at home mom, then basically you get a monthly salary from your husband, learn to invest it. That's your retirement fund. That's your money. And you then have the you have then learn the tools and get the ability to manage that amount for yourself.
Yeah.
Be it
It's
retirement, be
it's a
it learning
very
about.
alien it's a very alien thought, in a lot of, you know, and I think I could actually probably see a lot of spouses going,
Well, a spouse is going, "Ugh," and a mom's going, how can you say, this is priceless? But with money, we have to keep emotion aside.
yes,
We need money for basic things like food, shelter, clothing. But then also, uh, everyone's going to face difficulties in their life, but facing difficulties while not having money just makes it so much harder.
yes, yes, and it would be it'd be interesting if and this is where often the wording of it, well, it's my money. Okay, I've earned it. Okay, yes, you've earned it, but you've also made a joint decision to have your spouse stay at home and look after the children.
And that's an
Um,
ouch. That's
and
an
that's
ouch
yes,
statement to say, that's my money. Well, your spouse did put aside a part of herself.
yep. But it was a joint decision.
Yeah, it was a
The,
joint
the, the
decision.
the ultimately thing, from my point of view, is it is a joint decision often that they'll do it. It's also with a lot of expats that say come to Hong Kong,
Hmm.
is that it's a joint decision that you follow one person's career up here, and the other person has left their career in whatever country they've come from, and may not be able to continue it up here.
Hmm.
Luckily, myself as an accountant was able to do that because I followed my husband up here 30 years ago
Hmm.
as a pilot.
Hmm.
So he's a pilot, and I followed him up here. But I actually supported him during his training and all of that before we came up here. So we had the role reversal in Australia where he was doing flying,
Hmm.
minimum wage, sometimes non-paying jobs, just to get us into that position. So me not working, it's just like in my mind, it was just like, well, I like it. I like getting out. I like meeting people. I like doing all of this, but that's what I enjoy doing as well. So it's the my money situation, and it often comes up, or
Yeah.
I've heard this, you know, you don't deserve this, and there's a lot of financial abuse that goes on as well. It's we've got to start talking about this so that people are aware that some things are not okay as well.
Can you talk a little more about financial abuse? What have your experiences been or clients' experience, if you can talk about it?
Yeah. No, it's getting more and more prevalent. Where it's like, okay, it's my money. I will give you, say, this amount each month, and I'm in control of the rest of the money. Or you can't spend it on this. It's too expensive. Um, or if you, for example, and this is more a divorce case where, as the divorce is going on, the spouse who's working will go in business class tickets to on a holiday, but tell the ex-wife, who's still on because they're going through it, oh, you spent all my money, you're spending all my money, I've got no money left. But did you really need those business class tickets to go on holiday? Okay.
Right. Mm.
So it's like on one side of it, it's saying, okay, there is money there. The other side of it is you're spending all my money. And it's that mental abuse and mental conditioning. Okay, that you can't go out and spend money, or I'm watching where you're spending money, or um, you can't go and get your hair done because you go down the road and get it done for $100. You
Mm.
can't go to a salon that works with curly hair or something like that for $500. That's it's telling you can't do stuff is where the abuse comes in. So it's like a mental abuse,
Mm.
but it's around money. It's the control of money and controlling money in a negative way in, say, a marriage or a partnership.
Right.
um, you know, uh, there's the other one where it's elder abuse, where a child may control the finances of the parents,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and not, provide the means for the parents to be able to live, because they got older, they can't necessarily do it
Mm.
as well. So, and they've got control over their accounts, and they end up using their parents' accounts for their own personal needs too. So there is that as well. Like I know I have control over my dad's accounts because he's 90, and
Mm.
my mother used to do all of that. So when my mother passed 5 years ago, I ended up taking control of his accounts. Whereas, but I keep them informed. I keep my sister informed. He looks at his statements every month to make sure, yes, that's what you've spent. Is there anything on there that you don't know about? I take him to where his investment person is.
Mm.
So I take him down each year to have a look at the investment review. And so he knows what's going on, but he's never, because my mother was an accountant too, he's never had to pay a bill out of it. My mother handled all of the accounting and all the financials. So, but the idea is, yeah, but there's a lot of cases where that doesn't happen. And
Mm.
then all of a sudden your parents have got no money left on that.
Mm. Mm. Wow. So basically, maintain transparency with your spouses or with your elderly parents. And what I want to end with one thing is you mentioned that because your mom was an accountant and she had a full time job as well,
Yes,
and she looked after you. I think she basically set the path for you where maybe she did actively or maybe she didn't realize, but she was basically teaching you to realize that you have the agency, you to be empowered and to basically build your power and autonomy in your own life. And I think
yes,
from today's podcast, what I would like moms to know is it's one thing how you feel about money, but how you start talking and interacting with money and building that, coming out of chaos and bringing that clarity.
yes,
And Sharon's website's tagline goes from chaos to clarity, bringing that clarity, and how you talk about money and investments with your daughters
yes,
is going to teach them to build that independence and agency in their life. So I think in another podcast or on Instagram, I read that your top who you surround yourself with, your top five people decide how your life is going to be. So, mom is the first person, that we connect with. And as
yes,
moms, it's our responsibility how we speak about money, how we speak about success, how we speak about women having success. And if we see any of our peers finding that success or being financially independent, to celebrate and applaud them and normalize that for our daughters.
yes, yes. And I've got, my daughter is 21,
Mhm.
and, she loves all the cute stuff still. And, it's trying to build her up to be an independent person. And I think that is my role, is to bringing up my kids to be able to be a good independent person, and be able to be living on their own, and support themselves in whatever way they're doing. And I've got three very different children. I've got two boys and a girl, and the idea is that they all, that's what we're, leading it to, and being a strong, independent person. And I think we are all strong on the inside. We just had it either, we just need to start bringing it out again. And that as well, because I do work with a lot of women entrepreneurs as well. And, they'll often look after their businesses really well, but their personal finances, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. So it's why not? But, from my point of view, my mother, I think, was a role model, though I didn't realize it until she actually passed. And I started then looking back at which you do. You look back at the history. You look back at, what she was setting us up for in being independent. And both my sister and I are quite independent, strong people who, have worked, have also volunteered, have a strong, you know, in helping others, a strong ethic in helping others. And, that's what I try and do instill in my kids as well, is that, be independent, be strong, be, be yourselves. The kind person that you can be, that you are, and that's what I try to do and pass it on. Hopefully, I do, with my lot. But I'm also hoping that through women, that I can also pass that on with helping them become the strong women that I know that they are and they can be, and it comes out when you start talking to them.
I don't think women need to be empowered. I think they just need to be reminded that they have the
Yes,
power. So,
yes,
and with that, I'll end this interview. Thank you so much. And I want to say what I always say: if a woman is empowered, she can empower the entire household.
yes.
So remember that you
Correct.
have the power. Connect with Sharon if you want to have a good budgeting system, learn more about finances, and she can train you through that. We will put all the website links and the social media links there so you can get in touch with her. Thank
Right.
you so much, Sharon, for being here today.
Thank you very much, Rushi. It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it, and I've really enjoyed talking about this. I can talk about it all day, so it's just like you're limiting me to an hour. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
All right.